Hit the lights!
You've discovered the Halfwatt podcast. We want to educate and entertain by tapping into the most trusted source of new technology, the ones installing and innovating it. You, the tradespeople that build from the ground up. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, veteran contractors, and even some young blood.
Welcome aboard the Halfwatt podcast. And this is basically our roundtable we're going to have. Ryan is our guest. Ryan, please introduce yourself.
My name is Ryan Mauch. I've been a journeyman technician for about 3 years. Been in the industry about, 7, 8 years.
Nice.
Started out, my father-in-law got me in the industry. Worked in IT at ASG at the time. And
where you met this handsome gentleman,
exactly,
which is Gage, my co-host.
Yep. So yeah, I went in IT. Basically, they said they needed help building panels in the back room, so went in the back room and started building panels. And I was like, hey, this is a lot better in IT. So I was basically just installing programs on computers and just doing basic Active Directory stuff. But yeah, so went to building panels and I was like, I love this. My days were going by way faster. Of course, all the journeymen were like, hey, you could have a van, by the time you're 25. I'm like, oh shoot, I wouldn't need a car to drive to work. Yeah, how do I get a van? I just want a van.
You can have
honestly.
that cool ASG symbol on the side.
Yep, exactly.
That's pretty cool, by the way.
Did you say a gas card?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell
they
me
pay
more
for my
about
gas.
that.
Where's this closest Starbucks? That's what I was always from. Starbucks to Starbucks for me.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So you work for a small shoe manufacturer, I hear.
Yeah, very small. Yeah, no, it's tiny. Yep. So
tell me what you do for Nike.
So for Nike, I'm basically a service technician. So I just I'm basically the customer for Gage because he works for ADT. So we'll dispatch him to go fix a PTZ on top of a roof that is pretty.
Okay, hold on now.
Yeah,
I know what a PTZ is, but the clients
Okay.
are the customers or the folks who are listening to us. They may not know what a PTZ is.
Okay, so it's a pan tilt zoom camera, so you can pan.
So you say.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought it was petting zoo, but whatever, dude. All right.
Thanks for clarifying. Wow.
So it's not a petting zoo.
No, not a petting zoo for sure.
So so you send him out to do security functions, and you're basically his boss.
Yeah, basically the customer, which is even higher than the boss, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
Exactly.
It sucks because we used to work together.
Yeah.
And we could bicker a little bit, but now he's always right.
No.
So
Because he's the customer.
So that relationship now, where
Yeah.
But
I just talked about that when we interviewed your uncle. Was like, hey, what happens when you become the boss, and how does that work?
Yeah.
And now we're looking at that situation in real time.
I think we made it past the awkward phase. I know my place now.
Do you?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. No, trust me. I know it. I know it now.
No, from being in Gage's shoes and now being on the customer side, I think it's a great transition because I remember when customers were always looking over my shoulder and it had that pressure, and I'm like, you know what, we shouldn't even be looking over. We should trust someone. If you have to look over their shoulder, you've got a problem.
So you know how to basically be a customer and not not be a burden.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And help them
nice.
out too, because I know where stuff is located, generally what he's gonna have to deal with. So I can also communicate with IT a lot better, which is a huge thing in CCTV and everything we do now. So I think that's a huge part of it is, being able to.
So how long have you worked for Nike? 3 years?
No, just 1 year, a little over 1 year now.
And the transition to that was totally worth it.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was worth it. Just because I can learn so much more, and I can. I was learning a lot at ADT as well, but. I'm able to, dive into different business related things, just be able to basically branch out a lot more.
So what, when you shifted over and became basically the other side of the coin, right? How much different was it for you?
extremely different.
Because I
Yeah.
did the same thing. I went
Yep.
from basically being, a manager to being a technician in a company, and it's like, I like it.
Oh, yeah.
I like having ownership of this is my system.
Yep, exactly. Yep. You kind of have like pride over the system and keeping it maintained and whatnot. I mean, as a service tech, I also had, pride in like after I did something, it was like looked really good, and obviously it worked is the main thing. But it's awesome just having that whole system. We have like, 4,000 cameras, 1,500
easy.
access control doors.
Wow.
So it's a lot to.
4,000 cameras.
Yeah. Yep.
4,000 cameras.
It's around the U.S. So
Oh,
not just at
I was gonna say they're all in Beaverton.
a lot of
Oh my
them are in
God.
Beaverton for sure.
3,800 of the. No, just,
Yeah.
I was just kidding. I was
Yeah,
kidding.
3,999 are in Beaverton.
Yep. It's around that much though. Obviously, when we take away buildings and
That's incredible.
build,
Wow.
it's more or less. But yep.
Are you streaming all the video back to the Beaverton office too, or
Yeah.
or not office? But the
Not
Beaverton
office, but they all.
compound, or
Yeah, they all go to different NVRs, so their NVRs are scattered about different buildings or at different sites out of state, so we can, all tie that into the server. And yeah, learning about that has been a huge thing the past year. So
Really?
it's been awesome being from the technician working on the cameras to kind of get into more like the back end stuff.
So tell me, are you doing facial recognition? And don't
Yeah.
talk about security stuff. I don't want you to
No,
violate
no,
security
no.
protocols. But
No.
you're doing facial recognition and all the zone cameras
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
So not facial recognition yet. I mean, there's definitely that's another really interesting part of it is a lot of things. If the employees who are working there don't like in a corporate environment, if the employees who are working there don't want facial recognition, we're not going to get it because we're not going to get the money
Nike,
for it.
Nike respects the wishes
Yes.
of the client.
Yeah, definitely.
Or of the employees.
Yep. And
Okay,
I mean,
that makes sense.
with everything going on around facial recognition right now in different countries, they're
Oh yeah, I never thought. I didn't
using
think
it
about
politically and so facial recognition is definitely kind of taking a step back, I think.
that. Really.
Yeah.
So
for
what,
sure.
what kind of cameras are you installing? Are they the same kind or various or?
They're basically the top of the line.
Yeah, no.
They vary quite a bit, but they're basically we choose one manufacturer. We kind of try to stick with them. But we're not really implementing any AI stuff or any crazy like facial recognition yet.
Interesting.
Yep.
And you installing or just repairing?
So I spent 4 years in install with I think probably like a random like sporadic 6 months of service into that. I kind of went service pretty fast. They kind of pushed me there, and then probably about a year in service now because I'm at like 5.5 years in the industry.
Are you fixing the stuff that you installed, or are you fixing other people's stuff that they installed?
That's a really funny question.
Because when you have to go back and fix the crap that you installed and you installed it wrong, you got no one to kick but yourself.
luckily, the ones that I have actually seen so far, I'm like, oh, okay, that's not mine. Whew. Yeah, no, because I've definitely thought about it, just like, oh man, in my young days, but I just had such good mentors and leadership, and obviously Ryan and they know the guys I was working with. I mean, it really was. We put a lot of talent on our Nike side, so.
Yeah, I can't imagine you would want to screw that up.
You'd have to be so bad to have not been a successful apprentice with the team that I was lucky enough to be given. So
Yep.
That's a good way to put it. Did you install there too before you became a technician for them? Or?
Not at Nike. I installed at other sites that probably gauge services now, like legacy sites.
Yep.
I did some. I was also switched over to service pretty quickly.
Okay.
So, we had quite a bit of install experience in our apprentice days, but as soon as we both journeyed out, I think we were switching to service pretty quickly there.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that being said, I think we were running jobs a little bit as apprentices.
Yeah, we were. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. I think they realized they were like, oh, these two actually they're doing something.
Yeah.
So yeah, both of us, they were kind of letting us take the reins on jobs with like obviously journeyman, like over our shoulder, and just like really letting us like take the reins. And
but that's what I expect a good journeyman to do. A good journeyman should hand an apprentice job.
Oh, absolutely.
Watch them over the shoulder. Make sure that you're doing it legally. I'll let bat squeeze. But honestly, that's the only way you're going to learn how to run a job, is to run a job.
Yep.
Is to do it. I mean, and then not critique, but kind of watch the whole thing unfold, and see how. I look at it this way. Apprentice can teach me things that I don't know. Okay, and I'm not, and I don't say that lightly, but it's absolutely the truth.
Yeah.
Because I get in this. Pigeonhole's the wrong word, but I'll do things the same way. Like, this is just the way I do it, and sometimes it's a good way to do it. Sometimes it's a stupid way to do it. And an apprentice might have an approach to it that's totally different. Even when I teach, I open my classes each time with who's everybody. You've been in them. Both of you guys have been in my classes. Where'd you come from? Who are you? What'd you do? Right? So that everybody knows what everybody else did. And that there's no real secrets. I was in the Army, I was in the Navy. I didn't do military. I got a PhD or whatever. And then I was just teaching DC the other night to the basic trades class, and went back to hey, when you're doing resistors in parallel, the total stack of parallel resistors is going to be less than the smallest resistor on the stack, and here's a good visual for that. And I pointed out that the visual aid that I'm going to teach you came from a student who had a degree in physics.
Wow. Because
that's it. For all the years I've taught this crap and known it, for the life of me, I can't see it, a picture of it, why it is what it is. I know that it is what it is. I know that, the more resistors you put, the more, the less resistance you have. But it doesn't seem, it's counterintuitive. And the kid got up and drew this graphic, which I drew for everybody, and said, this came from, who's now a journeyman, but this came from a guy who taught me that as an apprentice, because apprentices know things, that I don't, because they're humans.
Yeah, exactly. And God, especially in our industry. I mean, I can't wait for this podcast to actually like spread across to other sides of the country. Hey, if you're like really awesome over there in like Kentucky, like Tennessee, all you guys that are like making like in the mid-20s, come make $40 an hour over here, because we need people so bad.
It is the amount of money that some of us are making on this side of the country.
Yeah, I mean, what's the
plus we have water here.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of it.
Lots of it now.
Yeah, I think the union. What's the union standard right now? 44.
I think it's 44, 45.
Yeah, $44 an hour,
which is really good. I mean, it's really good.
And yeah,
plus the benefit
private's following it really well. Yeah. So if you want to make 44 plus, have vacation hours,
it's not it's one. I know that the podcast is up in Northern Washington, because the guy I worked with at Performance, who he's an ELO 1. And he's also an electrician in Massachusetts. So, that's a whole long story. But he is probably one of the smartest AES radio guys I've ever seen.
Yeah,
he is. And he's funny. Like he's one of those guys, when he calls, I just enjoy talking to him. Like, he just makes me laugh, and I'm sure I make him laugh too, maybe. But he's like, man, I got your podcast. I'm gonna be listening to it. I'm like, man, it's in Bothell, yay. So,
yeah,
because that's where
we've made it.
Of. Yeah, so if we've made it to Northern Washington, we're in, folks. We're there. But no, it'll spread. I know it will.
Yeah, 100%. Ryan?
Like a bad vibe.
No,
yeah, I'll try.
Yeah, you got some people at the tennis shoe company might help us out.
I actually haven't talked to him at all, but Ryan is going to be our new senior marketing director.
Well planned.
Don't worry, it's unpaid.
Perfect. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I need right now. Yeah.
I heard you've had no time, so I figured I'd add
lots
this to
of time. We've all had lots of time. But
so tell us what your day-to-day activities. What is it that you do here?
Okay.
At Inattack?
So
yeah, exactly. I love that movie.
Office Space is the best.
Yep.
It's the best. Take the damn things to these people. I know. I'm sorry. I'm off on a tangent.
So yeah, I basically get to the office, figure out what's broken, have a bunch of, we sit right next to the operations side of security. So we always, get exactly what their concern is immediately. So, essentially I have a customer too, which is the operations side of security. So, basically I get in, figure out what's broken, and either dispatch Gage to go fix it, or, we can reset something remotely, or, direct someone to press a reset button. I mean, usually it's, a reset button or some sort of remote reset that fixes most of the issues.
It's access control and video.
Yep, access control and video.
So with access control, is it all tied in the fire system too? So when the fire system goes off, isn't it a big EST system?
We basically just have one, input that comes in from the fire system.
Oh, just one big gigantic relay.
Yep,
Oh yeah,
Click.
into
Contactor.
Yep.
to every access panel.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh
Well,
yeah.
it pretty much just goes to the power supplies, and the power supplies are able to switch doors unlocked. Obviously,
Right. I'm thinking of the life safety cans,
yeah.
the newer ones where it's just like one that comes into
advanced
the
stuff.
panel, and oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, so it's basically just one input from the NAC that comes in, and we're not allowed to terminate it, of course, but
Yep. Just let the fire guys do it.
yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're always told we can't terminate to the NAC, right? The relay, the fire relay.
Well, a NAC could be an output, like a
their output.
appliance.
Yep.
So who does your fire for you?
For us, it's Siemens right now.
And so there's all Siemens systems up there.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's right. Because the EST's now gone, and it's just Siemens. They have their own equipment in there.
Yeah, for sure. And then they integrate into our, global security operations center, which can then call, the Tualatin Valley Fire to go respond to something. Yeah,
Nice.
That's the other interesting part is you always hear, different things going on the security operations side. You got this homeless guy walking through campus or something like that, and they have to all respond. Pull up a camera.
We have that. Yeah. So I don't do any of the security work at OHSU. It's all handled by a separate group. And when I was a manager there, I definitely had could look at the cameras and do some work then. But now as a fire monkey, they don't. That's not my expertise. But yeah, we have quite a few cameras as well, and our police force up there is accredited, so they carry weapons, and it's a real deal. I mean, and yeah, people come through there, and you're like, I need help.
Yeah,
this isn't going well. Send help immediately. But it's and that always happens in places, and I'm sure that people want to visit the campus, and I haven't been on that campus in years, so it's I when I was there, when I worked for Simplex, we tested the computer room, the server room.
Okay.
And there was one. You couldn't throw a football the length of it. I mean, that's how big this thing was. And when I got there, they had all these quad hard drives, these big blue IBM hard drives, and they were all wrapped up. And I said, "What are you doing with all these? Are you getting these things?" He goes, "No, those are going out. These are coming in." And the guy points to two EMC squared machines and goes, "Those are 2 terabyte machines." I'm like, "Wow, terabyte. That thing's huge."
Yeah.
I think I've got one of those in my backpack. But I couldn't. I think the whole time we were in there working, I watched what the folks that handled the servers did, and honestly, what they did is they read numbers and went and got those data tapes and stacked them up in the tape reader, and that's what they did. Like there was a couple of people who were sitting in a CRT, and the rest of them took data tapes and put them in this reader. And when they were done, they put them back on a shelf.
Yeah, and that's
what
a
they did.
full-time
It's a
job.
full-time job.
And then when you get to the end, technology, it's done its part. You go back to the beginning.
You go back and do it again.
You do it again.
Yeah. And I asked him. I said, what is happening here? What is it? He goes, this is the memory. He goes, the new machine, which was an automated arm pulling thing, that will do that for us. So there will be less and less human interaction. I'm like, damn. Like, what is it? He goes, it's everything from sales to, it's everything. It's everything the company does at that one data center.
Yep.
And I thought, man, because I didn't know anything about anything. I just was just like out of the Navy going, what is all this? What's going on here?
And if you'd like to add any input at all on anything that we're talking about today, go ahead and email halfwattpod@gmail.com.
We have an email. You're making that up. Do we have an actual? Did someone actually email us?
Yeah, we do have one. You want to just break into it now? I probably should have brought my phone in here.
Well,
keep this conversation going.
I
dropped the ball.
I want to hear if we got an email and it's not spam, right? No one's trying to sell us something.
Oh wait, no, I just set up my Buffalo Wild Wings with the wrong email. Damn.
Damn. Yeah. Oh, I was just hi. That's when I get those phone calls. It's like the woman that goes, "Hi, we've been trying to reach you." I just chuck my phone across the room. I don't even listen to the rest of it.
Yeah.
I got to see this email. So tell me more about working for Nike. Good benefits and all that.
Yep, good benefits for sure.
Yeah. Pays comparable or better than what you're making. Yeah.
Yep. So really, pay is one thing, but being able to experience different back end systems and more management side stuff is, I think, way more beneficial. So that's honestly the reason why I went there, is because I was able to kind of dig into the back end systems, basically learn. The knowledge is worth way more than anything else.
Really? So do you feel, because now you just go to one place all the time, do you feel like do you miss being out in the field and doing service calls?
Definitely. Yep. Yeah, for sure. No, I miss the I think you were saying it in one of the last podcasts, is like being able to experience different environments, see how people work. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that today, I saw some places on my service calls where I would not want to work there ever.
Yeah.
Everyone there was just depressed. Just did not. You could just tell they didn't like their job.
Everybody's depressed.
Yeah.
They're all like, "Oh God,
yeah,
another day here in paradise."
Yep.
Shoot me.
Usually the ones that would yell at me, from back. So
I liken it to the aliens when you're about to hatch out. And they're like, "Kill me, kill me." I can't help you. I can't help you. You're like on your own.
Yep.
Oh, gross.
With a flamethrower or what? I've been to jobs like that, man. I've been to companies where it's like you walk in and this is not. I was at a place one time, and I'll let you read this thing. I was at a place one time where I honestly thought that it was mafia run. I was afraid to tell the guy that he had sprinkler issues because I didn't want to get whacked in the parking lot. And I was just like, this guy's gonna kill me. And I stood at his door, and I was just like, she got a couple painted heads, and don't kill me, please. I really felt like that. I still feel like that. I don't even want to go back. Well, I think I don't have to anymore.
Yeah, definitely don't name drop.
No, I will not. No, I will not. But it literally was like this guy. It is a legit business, and I could have just could have
awesome
been a feeling.
pizzeria.
No,
I'm just kidding.
No, it was a total different kind of company. But I absolutely felt like this wasn't a good environment for me. I need to leave and never come back. I'll send my apprentice next time.
Yeah. Oh, no.
You go.
Ouch.
Let me know how that works out for you.
Okay.
All right, so here's our official email.
Our first write-in.
Our first email, and
Wow.
please to give the email address. What is our email address? Halfwattpod.
Ours. I was like, you want to give them his email address? Halfwattpod. HALFWATTPOD at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Halfwattpod at gmail. So this is our first official email.
Yes.
Please to read now.
Hi there, Mike and Halfwatt Podcast.
Oh my God, it's to me.
You can call me Halfwatt Todd. I love it. I was really excited to hear that someone was starting a new podcast that talks about the stuff I deal with all day. Nice. After listening to the interviews with Dave Gilson, it was great to get to know him and you, Mike, again. After carting out some time ago, not carting, I'm really excited to see the future of the show and love the troubleshooting lecture. You guys asked for funny horror stories, so I thought I would share this fun story.
There it goes. Here comes Todd's horror story.
Oh, man. I got to sit up in my seat and bring the phone a little closer.
I got goosebumps, by the way.
I'm ready. I was working with 2 journeymen as an apprentice at one time on a troubleshooting job where we had to go into a basement of a downtown building. I'm assuming this is, well, it could be downtown anywhere, but probably Portland. This place is crazy creepy with a lot of openings that go under the streets of Portland as well as tons of places to hide. Well, on this day, the 2 journeymen I was with, we'll call them Greg and Carlos, sent me ahead to scope out the basement while they put the fire system on test and got their tools. I told them I would take care of the ghosts and ghouls for them. Carlos, being the dry, humorous guy he is, didn't waste a second to remind me that there are no ghosts. Greg, he was not so quick to dismiss the idea of creepies down below. I went down there and walked around, looking at the creepy old furniture and empty spaces, and got a great idea. It's dark, really dark down there, and without a flashlight, it's impossible to see your hand in front of your face. So when I heard Greg and Carlos coming, I turned my flashlight off and simply stood in the middle of the basement, and as I heard them walking down the stairs, I picked up a piece of wood. They came around the corner, and before the lights hit me, I threw the wood onto the other side of the room, clamoring and banging as it hit. Greg jumped in the air, higher than I ever thought possible. A curse and a fit of anger, Carlos comforted Greg. Then they turned back around, and their lights landed on me. I was closer than they had ever thought to expect, and the sudden sight of my ugly mug was just a bit too much for them. Well, Carlos was fine. True to his nature, he smirked and rolled his eyes at me. Greg, on the other hand, moved so quickly out of that basement he left skid marks.
In more than one place, I'm sure.
I'm sure. I still remember the sound of his tool belt dropping and his footsteps pounding, all while cursing at the haunted basement he was leaving behind. Anyways, thank you so much for reading this, and thanks for starting this show. I can't wait to learn more and hear all the fun stories from the other texts.
Well played, Todd. Excellent. Good job. Yeah, having a sense of humor on the job, I think, is critical. I really do.
Yep. Yeah, we had one of our journeymen that I think we both were apprentices under. You be in an attic with him or something.
Oh, God, this guy.
He already knows right.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Yeah, basically he would just rip one like right when you're behind him or something.
Nice, well played.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and
he knows who he is.
And after being, I used my main journeyman as I was coming up, and it'd always be, I'm sitting there wiring relays, wiring up an access control panel, and then I'd be like, what? Where is he? And then you knew if he was by the door or by a hatch, it was already too late.
It was already done.
It was done. And then if you saw him somewhere else, you're like, oh, thank God. The worst story I ever had with him was, so I'm on basically as high as you can legally be on a 12-foot ladder, A-frame.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yes, yes. Up in a ceiling. So the building was actually still occupied. So they wanted us to like temporarily mount like motion detectors, which I mostly do access control, not really security, but hey, pays the bills all the same. So I'm up there, and it's still partial. They're still working on the drop tile. So you know what? I think it was me actually taking them out.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, I smelled just the worst thing. No, I didn't use a hammer. No.
If I had a hammer.
Just smelled the worst thing in the world, and I'm like, oh man, I have to get off this ladder. I turn around, and my journeyman's face is about. Like, I can't believe I didn't hear him or see him, but his face is probably like at my knees. So I like look down to my left, and he's just like, "Gotcha!" And I had nowhere to go, so I started kind of friendly, like kicking him in the chest. And he's like, "I ain't moving."
Nice guy.
Oh man.
I had a guy at Simplex whose big thing was every time I climbed up a ladder, he would shoot compressed air, the frozen. You take a can of compressed air, turn upside down, and shoot up your pant leg. Every single time I'd climb up there, I started putting my pants in my socks. He would laugh himself silly. I mean, just laugh himself silly when he did it. And, you'd be able to ladder pretty damn high, and you have to don't. It's bad enough that you've got other like wasps and stuff like that.
Right.
But then that didn't help. So. My other thing was I used to when I worked for United, we'd do a lot of apartment complexes, where you got outside bells and stuff like that. And my favorite thing was the bell wouldn't ring, and I'd go, well, could be mud daubers, and, and honestly, because they can make a nest and stop the bell from ringing, and so I'm going to go up and take this thing off, and I became quite the expert at pulling the thing off. They're not a super aggressive wasp, thank God, and dealing with what's going to come out. Like that's why I teach students that. When you pull something off that's been outside, there will be some sort of animal in it that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, well,
Yep,
it's true.
It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Gage just serviced a PTZ on our campus, and it was full of ants.
Really?
Just full. Like
they're making a nest in it?
You never would have guessed. Without disclosing where it was, basically it was kind of a wooded area. I mean, if you've learned anything from this podcast, don't do anything anywhere near Nike because they will see you and they will find you.
I bet.
a lot of cameras for sure.
You're not getting away with anything.
But the thing about something like that though is like if you're a woman and you're working for Nike and you go jogging.
Oh, it's the greatest sense of security.
It's the greatest place of security you could ever have.
Yeah, I mean,
and that is
they're
really
the safest
critical.
joggers.
And the
state.
path is cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what's crazy is you never saw an ant the whole time I'm getting ready and everything, looking at the camera. I start unscrewing it, still nothing. I get to the last screw. And I just see like a string of ants start popping out. I'm like, oh,
really?
that's kind of weird. It's kind of wooded around here. So I pop the dome off and all hell breaks loose. I thought for sure this camera was going to be toast just from taking the cover off. But I mean, it was just like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ants.
I'm surprised it didn't short it out.
Well, that's what I was so scared.
Yeah.
I was like, but
and it's like the nicest camera we have on campus,
of
course,
course.
like the $4,500, 4K PTZ that, is so.
I can see the security people going, you're not going to believe what's back in here again. And there's all these ants climbing across the lens.
Like I'm sitting there, I'm asking Ryan for advice.
They're
I'm like, dude, what do I do? He's like, do you have compressed air? So we're blowing through cans of compressed air, just trying to spray them off.
And they'll come right back. If it's a nest, they'll just come right back.
Yeah, exactly.
They're ruthless.
Luckily,
ants are ruthless.
I think the queen was in the cover.
Well played.
So we actually just like and right because it was like the one place I couldn't get to him. So I was like, okay, and I brand new spanking cover from Ryan, and I was like, we're in business.
Only took 6 months to get here.
Yeah.
That is crazy, man.
Yeah.
Getting parts.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah. It's a huge problem. I mean, you can tell a lot of these companies have also kind of, built up a stockpile of these parts as well, which is also contributing to the problem. But I mean, either way, we just need a camera.
Yeah,
so,
no kidding.
yeah,
It's wild.
yeah. But to go on to that story, Gage, just to finish this off, Gage left the PTZ on my desk.
Yeah, I thought it was clean in my
on
defense.
Tuesday.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I have had ants all over my desk this entire time.
Are they the little tiny black ones?
Yep,
Those
yep.
things those
And they're
things
just
are the
everywhere.
worst.
So I had to give you credit for that.
Well played.
I thought it was clean, but hey,
They can hide pretty well, can't they?
Right?
And a lot of
especially in
them
an
can hide.
all black,
Yeah.
base. Because even for like a while after that, I'm just like, huh, just to see if I can pop any out. But you would not believe, there was like power injectors, and I was like, is that a power? I like tap it, and like it was just like, whoo. I was like, oh my god,
Yeah, they're
no,
all
that
in
was
there.
just 100 ants.
Ugh.
But well, talking with someone 35 years older than me who's about to retire from the business, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's actually super common. Ants, huh? Oh, thank you. That's actually super common because ants love the warmth. So when winter hits,
and the PTZs are warm. 'Cause
Oh
they got
yeah,
those resistors in them. So or heaters.
Yeah, and they got the heaters. So you know, and it's spring going
If I was
into
a homeless
summer.
ant, I'd be hanging out in a PTZ.
Oh,
How do the hell they get in there? I thought they're sealed.
They can't be fully sealed, because if they're fully sealed, then you get condensation in there. You know, you need to have some sort of vent, and you know those tiny ants will find anything. So
not to mention pole mounts.
yeah, they're on the pole, so they're going up the pole and going into the camera.
I didn't think about that. Because when you hermetically seal something, then you got to deal with the moisture that's in there, because you can never get it out, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It just stays in there. That's 100% humidity.
So as a fire guy, I hadn't really thought about that, because I haven't done security. So I'm like, I was working on a freezer one time that had a ground fault. Fire alarm system, and we had a couple heat detectors in it, and they were not hermetically sealed. So with freezers, once you hermetically seal something, it stays sealed. That amount of moisture that's in there will freeze, and that's it. You're done. There's no more. But if you don't hermetically seal, and there's a leak, then warm air constantly flows down and creates that ice block, and that ice block will build up and eventually ground or short, or both, your system. So
that makes sense.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Right before I left work today, the very last thing I did was, we have a supervisory that popped up from there was a psych ward in one of the older buildings, and it's no longer in use, so they shut that down. But it was common for patients.
Good cover.
Yeah. Well, I used to have to work there a lot, because they would the patients were patients. I mean, you know what they're going to deal with. So they had to really change how the toilets all worked and stuff like that. Well, we actually monitor that system, because it would flush stuff that shouldn't be flushed.
Oh, wow.
It was
okay.
So OHSU built this whole cistern and a way of handling it. So we monitor the state of that, and we still monitor the state of it, even though we're not using it anymore. And so I went to troubleshoot that, because this point's given us grief, and so I figured out what the next. Sometimes you can't solve the problem immediately, so you are doing it in stages. And when you work for a big institution like Nike or OHSU, you've got all these jobs you have to do, and so you have to triage what has a higher priority and how you're going to get to it. And if we're installing new stuff here, then that's what we'll do today. But if a problem comes up, you've got to stop and be able to be fluid. That was one of the things that was critical. Today I was scratching my head trying to figure out how this thing's wired and where it comes from. And as I discovered it, I realized that whoever put it in pulled the wrong wire in that conduit that goes out there.
You know what, I'm sitting here.
And it just dawned on me sitting here. I just said, that's the wrong damn wire. This should be icky pick they put in there. They didn't. And they didn't put a direct bill wire in there. So I've got, we're going to have to do something with it anyway, so I'll probably pull it out. But yeah, that you can't just throw FPLP or FPLR into a piece of conduit and run it out to a sump. You just can't do that. It will turn bad. And I've showed you guys those examples of what we pulled out of a piece of conduit, because it always gets wet. It always has moisture in it.
Right.
Always.
It's amazing how far that corrosion will, travel as well.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I remember one of the ones we worked on when we were working together was a temperature sensor going to a freezer, and that thing was corroded like
25 feet.
I think it was more than that. It was like 50 feet. It was all the way.
Crazy?
And
I'm on the light side. It was at minimum 25 feet, but
it feels like more when you're pulling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but like, for example, it was an exterior freezer, and it went like up a wall and then like down. You're right, because I think we measured it. Just the down wall was 30 feet. So yeah, it was probably 40 to 50 feet, and I think 5 5 feet before the wall penetration is when the black stopped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right.
there's no water,
Yeah.
touching the cable. It's just that corrosion traveling that far. Probably only took it like a year to get there.
Yeah,
It's-
exactly.
That's another thing. Is the
Yeah.
one that we replaced that we had to pull about 600 feet was it took. Well, I had worked on that system when it was new when I worked for United. So I think I started working for United in 2008, and United didn't install it. It was already there. They just took the account, and so I remember working on the system then, and we replaced it when I worked for Performance. So it lasted, all those years before
Right.
it finally went completely bonkers. And the way it went bonkers is it was carrying S-bus data. So on a fire alarm system, on a silent night fire alarm system, I can add an S-bus external smart NAC, I call them,
Right.
a 496, I think it is. And then it basically is just a piece of the motherboard, and it talks to it. And that's what failed was you have power and data in there and water. And eventually the water, the electrons, because all it's got to do is be wide enough for an electron to fit through.
Yeah.
Right? So it failed somewhere, and it can't ground because it's plastic conduit. All right, so you've got water
Right.
in a plastic raceway, but what it can do is it can affect, like a negative could have electrons flowing to the data plus or data minus,
Right.
and then cause an intermittent failure. And since the water is obviously conductive, because it was, in the video, those guys that did the work show it was just nothing but muck and mud, and oh god, it was terrible. Yeah, so we pulled like probably THWN in there or something and just did it with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Something that could handle it. Like, oh my gosh. But
Gotta love it.
I went.
Yeah.
I tell my students I went to a place in Wilsonville that had just been installed, and we were looking for an issue, and I won't even say the brand of the fire panel because it'd give away who installed it. But the module was installed in a vault, and the module had failed because of moisture. I mean, it was not.
Okay.
It was installed in a hermetically sealed, not hermetically sealed, but a weatherproof box, but the raceway wasn't, and so the moisture is in the raceway, and then it works its way into that module. So the only way to really do it would be to seal off the raceway, put a desiccant in or something to try to absorb the moisture, and then throw it.
I'm sorry. Do you actually just like keep that on your truck or?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I was a manager weasel at that point, so I couldn't, but I had.
Right.
But that's what we wound up, I think, doing was getting. A matter of fact, when I was at OHSU, I found a tamper switch, an external tamper switch on a WIV, a wall indicator valve, that was hanging upside down, which is common. When they put them in, you can go either way with them, and oftentimes they go upside down with them. They just don't think about the fact that any moisture that gets in there will condense in there and sit. But the problem with desiccant is that once it gets wet, it's wet.
Are you also going cross-eyed? Because I don't know fire very well, so
Yeah, a little bit.
when he gets going, I'm just like,
sorry. Wall
damn,
indicator valve.
he's going for it.
Big-
He's really going for it.
Should have learned it in his class.
big
I'm
manly
feeling
man.
like I should have.
Yeah, I'm like,
Big manly man valve. So when you have a valve on a roof or a wall that you're going to shut off, sometimes the valves are inside on a sprinkler system and sometimes they're outside. So it depends on the way that they set them up. So if you see those valves that are hanging on the outside of a wall that say open and shut, those are called wall indicator valves. And if they're standing upright, they're called PIVs or post indicator valves.
okay.
And so the valve could be 10 feet or 5 feet below the ground or wherever it's at or inside the building, but the control for it is outside. And if you've not had the pleasure of working on a wall or a post indicator valve,
Not once.
oh my God, they will either make or break a technician. Honest to God, if you've never done it and you've never had to work on one, and you take it apart and put it back together again, you'll be an experienced technician at the end of that. Like you only have to do one. It may take you an hour. It may take you 4. It depends on how bad it is. But
Wow.
It seems like it would be super simple, but it isn't. And that's why when I teach, I offer, here kids, here's my number. Give Uncle Mike a ring because you're going to need it about an hour in. And matter of fact, with Tyler's brother, he and I did one in North Portland one time, and he went, "Man, I never would have figured this out. This is insane." I'm like, "Yeah, they're terrible. They're terrible to work on."
The wall ones.
Both. It was a roof indicator. It was a roof indicator valve. It was a PIV on a roof.
Oh, great. Okay.
Or maybe it was. I think it was on a roof. And then you, when you opened it, it actually allowed water to flow up onto the roof. And so after we got it all functioning correctly, and then you have to drain the water back out of the header, otherwise it'll freeze and crack the header. So there's all kind of wacky sprinkler stuff that's why I push that knowledge if you're going to deal. It's because otherwise, if you do sprinkler type work and then forget stuff, the sprinkler guys will, come after you like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" You're breaking our stuff.
Yeah, I think the only practical exposure we got to that was, hey, if you break a sprinkler head,
that's
here's
a
the
bad
shut-off
day.
valve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On the job site.
Oh,
So,
I've only seen that happen one time,
It's a bad day.
and it was one of our subcontractors, and I felt so bad for that guy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You will not fathom the amount of water that will come out of a 1/2-inch orifice sprinkler head, especially if it's got a fire pump behind it. You will not fathom. And while you're watching it, your brain's going, "This is a bad day, and it's not going to end anytime soon." Because it's not just shutting off the valve; it's now draining the system out because all that residual water is still in the pipe.
Yeah. And,
or it's in the server room where IT department just put in all the servers.
Oh no! Did that really
Yep.
happen to you guys?
Yeah, on one of the legacy sites I was on an install job for one time. Yep.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's an expensive day.
Yeah, it was
Yes,
like I
it
think
is.
2 days after they put in the all the switch gear.
Oh, just thinking about that hurts. Oh
I know.
my
Yeah,
God.
it was a cable puller, pushing a glow rod through a chase and just
What?
popped it. Yep.
Oh, that has to be
Really?
the worst luck in the entire world.
I'm just trying to imagine how that.
And then, especially because you're not even thinking about it, you don't know where the shutoff valve is.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's not your gig.
And
Why would you?
and definitely no offense to the nurses or doctors, but they don't even know what that is. Mm-hmm. And I mean, no one does until you're really either in facilities or you're in the
and it smells
field.
and it smells like dead fish. Yeah.
Oh my God! So yeah, it just
Bonus.
smells terrible.
Bonus,
Everyone's
it
freaking
smells
out.
awful.
Yeah, the walls were black, I think, for the
Yeah, oh,
next,
yeah.
forever.
I was working with a guy one time at a legacy facility, and we were in order for us to test the sprinkler system there, we had to actually hook up a hose. This is a bad design. You had to actually hook up a hose and run the inspector's test into a hose and then into the toilets because that can handle that much water. So me and the plumber would go through and do this all the time, and there were like 12 water flow switches, and that's how we tested it. It just was the design at the time. So to get to the very end of it, he goes, "Man, there's a valve right here," and I says, "Well, I'm not going to open the valve." He goes, "You're a big chicken." I says, "Well,
Famous last words. That's what
I tell you what I'll do.
sounds like.
I'll go outside, Dyke Wagon, to see where the water comes out, right? Because I'm sure that's and you open up the valve."
Okay.
And there was a new guy also who was with us, who was just kind of going with us to see, how all this worked. And he was from Arkansas or something like that. He had a southern accent. So I'm outside and I hear this. And I'm looking around, I'm scratching my head going, "What the hell is any water coming out?" So I go back in the building and I go up the old loading dock, first clue, that they had encapsulated with walls, up the top of the loading dock, and the guy who was with us is doubled over in laughter. I mean, he's turning red, and he's trying not to laugh. But as I got up, I'm looking at him, I got this really curious look. I'm like, huh. And I look in this office, and these two women are standing there, and they're completely soaked. There's water coming out of everything. And they're both going, "Is it toxic? Is it poisonous?" And it smells like dead fish. It's black water. It hasn't been moved in
Oh,
years
it's
and years
black
and years.
water.
And I'm like, and the water's dripping out of the overhead. They had their drawers open, their computers were ruined, and they're standing there like this. And I was like, oh God, you know. And I'm immediately trying not to laugh because this guy is unable to stop laughing. And I'm like, oh God, don't do this. And they're like shaking off the water like this. And the plumber comes down. And he goes, oh no. And that was it. It was on, and I ran out. I had to run outside to laugh. I couldn't contain it. My stomach, just thinking about it makes my stomach hurt. And so he's in there. So these women are just I mean, and they were like social workers or something like that. All their art art from the kids, the drawings and stuff everything was ruined. And I think he said that basically it was about $6,000 or $7,000 worth of damage that he did in less than 30 seconds. And I just looked at him and I said, I'm so glad I didn't open up that valve. I'm so glad I didn't open up that valve. And just go, shut up.
Lucky it wasn't 2022.
And what it was
$70,000.
Oh my God, yeah. What it was that was a loading dock, and it was really common to put the inspector's test on a loading dock, and you would, you'd look and open it up and blow it out on the loading the truck there. And that's where it shot. And so they had never capped it, and so it shot on top of a light one of those, light fixtures, a fluorescent light fixture, and then up against the ceiling and then down. And so when he'd opened it, as long as it was open, it was flowing. And it was flowing. And that water had not moved out of that branch line in years. And so it was just thick black. Oh my God, just thinking about it was funny. And yeah.
Wow.
And the folks at the facility, they never let that guy live it down. They never let him live it down. I mean, it was
wow.
And I just was like, oh my God, thank God.
Yeah. See, the worst we can do is like lock someone out of a room or something like that.
Right.
I mean, they're still pretty angry when you do that, but I can't imagine.
Or mess with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of your crap's gonna work today. Nothing you touch that badge on is gonna open.
Yep.
Right, yeah, I've had some really weird situations on service calls where I'm just like, okay, it's fine. I'll just pull the relay and the mag lock. It'll stop sending power. And then you pull it, and they're like, now it won't do anything. And you're like, what? You're like,
you can get in the door.
That happens on elevator recall. It's elevator recalls can oftentimes be wired normally closed. That's the way they actually should be, and so they're fail safe. If you cut the wire, the elevator recalls. Or if you pull the relay, the elevator recalls.
Right.
And you're like, that's not the way I expected this to go. Well, sucks to be you.
Well.
Oh, you learned the hard way, don't you? Oh, God. Oh, God. Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's our round table. We just kind of sit around and chew the fat.
Yeah.
Enjoy each other's companies. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Learn a little bit of fire, mile a minute.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's cool. All of our fire guys loved it.
Yeah. They're all going, I've been there, man. I've been there.
That's what we're here for. We're representing the rest of them.
Well, yeah, because not everything is all about. Well, no, it is all about fire.
I was going to say.
All it is fire, and then there's everything else.
Yeah, no, there's just
not.
It's just like that interview that you had with Steve. There's like 7 categories of our job, and then there's like 3 or 4 niches under every single one, and we're all inclusive. We're an all-inclusive group here, and so if you're welcome to email and go, Mike, if you talk about fire one more time, I'm going to hunt you down like the rabbit animal you are. Or shoot us some names. I mean, we want to get audio guys in here. We want to get data guys in here.
Home automation guys.
Automation.
Jesse,
absolutely.
That's a direct request for Jesse to be here.
Absolutely.
That's my fave.
Yeah, no, that'd be incredible. Again, the best thing that you can do to help out the podcast is obviously share it with a friend.
Hit 5 stars if you listen to it. Give it a high rating.
Absolutely, and then don't be afraid to message us.
No, please
message us.
Halfwattpod.
See, now we're both stuttering. Halfwattpod@gmail.com. I know, I started it. But, well, thanks for listening.
All right.
Get off the ship.
Thanks for listening to the Half Watt Podcast. We always want to hear from you, and we encourage you to email us at halfwattpod@gmail.com with questions or even your own stories. Funny, crazy, or praiseworthy, we want to hear it all. You can follow us on Instagram at halfwattpod to stay up to date on our feed. And be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And share us with a friend, the best way to help us grow. The Half Watt Podcast is a production of Now Hear This Studios.